piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
I am.
What up, film fans? Happy Monday, moviegoers. Welcome to another episode. Welcome to episode 333. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Juan, and I am joined by the cast, the crew. Jay?
Jay, how's it going? How's it going, Juan?
Good, man. What's up, man? You doing all right today?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Had a good day.
It's been a good day, man. We are here to talk another A24 movie. A little bit later on, we're going to talk all about Heretic, one of the... am I pronouncing it right?
You are.
Throughout the whole weeks leading up to it, man, I was calling it Heretic. I don't know, but the name is interesting, and we'll dive into the name. We'll dive into some of the backstory and everything else a little bit later on. But before we get started, guys, how was your week, man? You have a good week?
Oh, yeah. You?
It's been a good week, man. Fast pace, never stopping. For everybody out there watching on Emiswal YouTube channel, Emiswal Productions, we are cameras off today, so you're going to be able to just dive in, put the headphones on, listen to us. If you're listening out in podcast land, you have nothing to worry about because we're always on audio version. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, and wherever else you listen to all your great podcasts at. You can also find us on Prescribed Films Network. That's hashtag the PFPN, or you can just go to www.prescribedfilms.com. There is a network that you can listen to us, the Movie Defenders, Attack of the Killer podcast, all kinds of other good podcasts. So go check that network out. We are a fun featured podcast on that network. So by all means, go check it out and check out some of the other ones as well. Also, if you're watching this on Emiswal Productions YouTube channel, you can go back and listen to any of the other podcasts, like Friday the 14th podcast, or there's also some wrestling. Check out some of the wrestling on there. So, but as far as our social media links, if you want to listen to anything we've talked about in the past, last week we had a very fun conversation all about... Jay, what did we talk about last week?
Oh, my gosh, put me on the spot. What did we talk about last week? I zoned the hell out, man.
He says we slept since then.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good conversation, though, so go back and check it out. We had a fun time talking about Speak No Evil.
Oh, yeah, James McAvoy, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we had so much fun talking about the Lincoln Warrior. For me, that feels like our last episode.
yeah, I completely, I remember the Lincoln Warrior, too, because it was a McConaughey.
It is McConaughey. It's McConaughey year, so go back and dive in and listen to that episode. Speak No Evil was a little fun bump in the road, so go back and check that out, too.
It's a lesser episode.
Yeah. So other than that,
it's a good episode, y'all. Damn.
If you want to find us on the social media, facebook.com/The Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Instagram is all one word, at Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The X, formerly known as Twitter, is at Cine-Men405. Or you can email us, cinemen921@gmail.com. Our next big email bag is going to be Monday, February the 17th. That is when we're talking our top 5 plus 5 movies of all time. We're also going to be talking about our favorite actor, actresses, director, our most hatred movie of the year, and some other awards as well. So go back and send us in some emails. We will be displaying those Monday, February the 17th. And then Thursday, February the 20th, we'll be talking about our top 5 horror movies over on Friday the 14th podcast. So go give that a check out as well. This past week, we talked all about the Mean One. So if you guys want to check that episode out, go back and just social media search Friday the 14th podcast or Enos Noir Productions on. So, but Jay, before we talk about Heretic, did you check anything fun out this week that you want to recommend to any of the listeners?
Yeah, I just went back through some of the Alien Covenant Prometheus. I'm doing an Aliens run, and I got all the way to Aliens, so I'm just getting to start that. So then I watched Heretic. Then I just kind of zoned out for the rest of the week and stuff.
Aliens, man. I did a franchise frenzy review on those movies last summer. You'll have to give me like a total grade whenever you get done with it.
I even went through all 6 Scream movies within a day. I just sat down and said, "Fuck it, I'm powering through them all," and just went right through them all.
Damn. How is it with like watches like that? Like you sit there and you watch, like Scream dozens and dozens of times. When you watch maybe like the first 3 or 4, seeing them so many times, is it just background noise, or do you still sit there and kind of pay attention?
Oh, it's I kind of pay attention, but then it's just one of those, like, I've seen it so many times, it's kind of like muscle memory.
Yeah.
But it's one of those comfortable, one of those comfortable movies that you can just sit there and chill and watch, and it's enough of a brain teaser to keep your day going, I guess.
That's true.
So,
if you had to recommend anything, what would you do? Which one's your favorite? The original?
yeah, I'd probably go the original, and then probably I don't know. I don't know which one I'd rank afterward because they're all pretty good in my eye. There's to me, there's Scream fans out there that say this one's bullshit, this one's shit. No, I'm just like I like them all kind of evenly. They're all good. They could have went south like the Jason movies and shit like that. It's just like so.
Yeah, that's true.
So whenever we've got a Scream sequel, they've always been pretty good to me, at least. I have no big problems with any of the movies. I can sit there and be very analytical on each movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Each movie, if we're just going to dissect each movie, but when it comes down to just in general, I'll just sit there and watch them all. You guys I recommend doing that. If you ever want to sit there one day, if you can have a day just to fucking chill, just sit there, throw all 6 Screams on, soon to be 7 next year, but they're all 6 of them fuckers on and just watch them in one go. It's fun.
There are some movies that I'd like to sit there and just do that in one go, but time will come. So it was a pretty slow week for me. After last week's episode, I talked about Venom on last week's episode. I watched Immaculate. Pretty decent movie. It's. Did you watched the First Omen, right?
No, I do not.
You didn't check out the First Omen?
No, I wasn't on that episode.
It's the story is like almost the exact same, but Sydney Sweeney does a pretty good job. I checked out Boy Kills World.
I've seen that. That's real good.
Yeah, that's not too bad. It was that almost felt like a fun little. Man, they came out with them a bunch back in like early 2000s, but it felt like a really.
The way I seen it was like after seeing The Crow and seeing this, I was like, that was actually fun. What the fuck happened in The Crow where he wasn't fun to be?
Yeah.
The fight scenes in this movie were so fucking cool, but then you get him into The Crow, it's like, what happened? He just so
this felt like a gory, rated R, comedical kung fu movie.
Just a throwback with the. They could have had a very limited budget on this. I'm not sure what they had on it, but it was a very good watch. I enjoyed that.
I checked out Never Let Go with Halle Berry. Probably not the greatest thing I've seen all year, but I've definitely seen worse. I watched The Substance. I can't wait to rewatch that again to check out some of the details that I might have missed. But it's now that I've seen it, it's just where is it going to fit on my top 10 of 2024. Demi Moore was outstanding, as well as Dennis Quaid. I don't think Dennis Quaid is getting his flowers that he probably deserved for this movie. And then I checked out A Different Man and Heretic today. So I went on a little A24 binge today. A Different Man is pretty phenomenal. It's on HBO Max. If anybody's out there wanting to take any consideration into any of my recent watches, I would check out A Different Man. Fast, easy. It's on HBO Max. It's 2 hours, but it doesn't feel 2 hours, so I would highly recommend that. Heretic is not available to stream anywhere yet, but I believe I'm sure it'll be on HBO Max real soon because that's where all the A24 movies have been going. So, oh, and I checked out Ace Ventura. It's been.
Oh, I seen you rated that pretty high on Letterboxd. What, you know,
I gave it a 4 out of 5.
it still holds up.
It does, man. Especially I watched it right around conference championship weekend, getting ready for the Super Bowl. I mean, I really had a nitpick to try to not like it, but it still kind of made me laugh. There were like 2 or 3 scenes that just made me giggle. And that's saying something because when we did some comedy movies last year, I just sat there with a straight face. I didn't laugh at all. But this movie still made me giggle about 2 or 3 times. So, yeah. But I don't think you can go wrong with Jim Carrey. I think certain actors are like, you know, he probably has still a few that I probably would watch and not laugh at all over. But
See, I grew up with that movie. That movie came out when I was at whenever my personality was forming. That was the kind of, the movies that were playing in theaters was, that's what appealed to my sense of humor. And at the time, was just the goofy, off the wall comedy, just weird, stupid shit, And Ace Ventura is a weird fucking movie, man.
it is weird.
Because you just got to sit there and just go with it. That this character, and Jim Carrey plays it believably, that this character, his voice, the way he moves, everything, that's fucking, And it doesn't come across as corny, at least in my book, it doesn't come across as corny or, because a character like that can just come across as very annoying.
Yeah, and they give him his props, like as a pet detective, you know what I mean? Like he actually goes in and he tries to solve some of the other cases. So
he's good enough that he could work for the police. He even see shit that the police doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's what causes him to figure out what happens over before the police ever did.
Yeah. So
but that movie has the ending of that, from what I hear, that people have a problem with that ending.
You know what? After watching it, the ending wasn't my favorite, but I didn't realize it was only an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, it's a little bit more than that. See, the only thing I miss is that if you had the VHS copy back in the day, like I did when they released it on VHS, it had a version not seen in theaters. So there's like 2 or 3 other scenes in the movie that's not on the DVD and Blu-ray cut of the movie. And it makes it just a little bit. But that's the version I grew up with for so long.
I don't know if I want to watch the second one because the first one left a pretty decent taste in my mouth. But yeah,
a couple years ago, I rewatched Part 2. I rewatched Ace Ventura 2, and I sat there and just laughed my ass off. When I even showed my nephew at the time the scene with the rhino, and he laughed his ass off. So I think it holds up pretty well. It appealed to my nephew, who at the time was like 12 or 13. It appealed to his sense of humor very, very much. So it still ticked the box for, because that's what I found funny and goofy at the time at 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah, no, the first one's only an hour and 26. That's with credits. Without credits, it was like 120.
I love how it ends with him beating the hell out of the mascot. As a lover of all animals, and he's beating the hell out of an animal mascot.
I think this just turned into a Ace Ventura episode.
Hey, sorry.
No, you're good. Probably be some funny key points though. But yeah, if I had to recommend anything, just go HBO Max it up. HBO Max it up. I also watched a few episodes of The Penguin. So
what do you think of that?
Man, I thought The Penguin is okay. I don't know, man. I think we just get caught up in this world of superheroes or additions to these movies that we love so much. Let's make a series. Let's make this. Let's make that. And then it's 4, 5, 6 episodes, and then it never gets touched on again. Or it's like another 2 or 3 years until the movie comes out. But If you just look at it as its own story without thinking about Batman, it's pretty cool. It's pretty legit.
Colin
So
Farrell, Colin Farrell, and the girl that plays Sophia, she's great. Kristen, her name's Kristen, I think.
yeah.
I can't recall. I sat there on Resistance while watching that show with her performance, because like I said, I used to watch How I Met Your Mother, and she played a completely different character, even though she didn't really get a character on How I Met Your Mother too well, but in my opinion. But seeing her in that first and then see her and then this, it's like holy shit. The girl next door turns into a psychotic, killer.
I just finished the episode where she is in Arkham and she kills that one person.
Oh yeah, that's the whole. This is why Sophie's fucking crazy episode.
Yeah.
And that's an excellent episode.
But let's get ready to dig into what we're talking about today. Today we're going to be talking about Heretic with a release date of November 15th, 2024. With a $10 million budget, it grossed a little over $52 million at the box office with an IMDb score of 7 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is at 85%. The Metascore is at 71%. And the Letterboxd is at 3.4 out of 5. Starring Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, Chloe East, Topher Grace. Directed by Scott Black and Brian Woods. Two young religious women are drawn into a game of cat and mouse in the house of a strange man. If you guys have not seen this yet, it should be available to stream very, very soon on HBO Max. Or you can go check out you can pick up the A24 exclusive Digipack at Walmart, Amazon, A24.com, $29.99. Or you can just wait for it to hit the HBO Max. So let's dig into it. Let's talk about it. Jay, we'll start with you. First time watch, or have you seen it more than once? And on the first initial watch, if you had to describe it in one word, what would it be?
Not bad. I'm not trying to be basic or nothing, but one word, not bad. I actually, it was a good execution, for because we've set, they sit there and talk about horror films. There's like religious horror films, and shit like that. And this was definitely one of those religious horror films that just tries to take religion as a central, religion as a whole. It's not just one specific thing, and it's like, okay.
I checked it out just one time. This was a movie that I've had for like a week, but I really wanted to watch it like last week and then maybe again today. But I think just watching it for the episode, the one-time viewing, I kind of have it in my face right now, just looking at it as I'm talking to you guys here. But like, one word after the first watch, man, he uses it in the word in the movie, but I'm gonna have to use terrifying.
I thought like it was
Not terrifying in a bad way, but just like the end all be all story of like how you can sit there and write this script, cast these actors, come up with this budget, and then the way Hugh Grant just nails describing and talking to you about this, like this whole subject is like terrifying.
Yeah, he tries to, like you were sitting there saying today. You sat there and read around that. If anything, he was a teacher. Or you had a little backstory in your head where, he may have been a college professor or something like that while doing all this as a job. So
yeah, so the movie doesn't like explain what he does for a living, but that's what I had kind of put together. Like, man, and that's what Hugh Grant said in the special features, which a little disappointed. If we're going to talk about what you get for $29.99, you only get a 10-minute special feature about this movie, but that is one subject he brings up.
so there's that little tidbit right there that could just build upon layers of what you think about. You can think about this movie on many different layers. It starts off. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let me
No,
back.
no, no, you're good.
But it starts off, with the girls sitting there talking about Magnum condoms. It's a
Yeah.
story. It's a story about religion, and that's how they start the show off.
No, what I like about it though is they talk. Yeah, it starts off with condoms, but it leads into one girl is like, I've heard that they're the same size as all other condoms, and then the other girl is talking about how no, they're different. They're made for more girth than they are length. If we're okay to talk about that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
um, so Sister Barnes is the one who is uh, she's the one who is dressed. Honestly, I don't know if you caught that, but she's the one who is dressed more proper, if that makes sense. Um, and then uh, Chloe East is the one who is what would you call it really? You know what I'm talking about?
You're gonna have to tell me, sir.
She is the one who is dressed more.
She, more like she's more in a uniform.
Yeah, but
The more Mormified uniform. She's like
my
a
bad.
prissy little.
Yeah, I had it the opposite. Chloe is um the one who is dressed more proper. Um, so she's Sister Paxton. Sister Barnes is the one who's the dark-headed one, and
Yes.
yeah, she is the one who is.
I got confused there, sir. Myself. I'm like, what
My
the hell?
bad. No, no,
But we're good.
she's the really dark-headed one,
Yeah, she's the
and
one that.
she's in all black.
But she's the one at the beginning I was going to bring up for when they are talking about the condom sizes and everything, where one girl was told that they're just the same thing, it's just a marketing scheme. But another girl in this talking about the same topic sits there and says, "No, I heard it from someone else that it's legit. It's something different." And that changed her perspective and how things are perceived in that notion. So both of them go into the situation with different con, interpretations of the subject matter, and that tells you how they are as a personality as well.
Well, I mean,
Someone would just sit there and believe it's a marketing scheme, and then someone that maybe has experienced it would just been told it that hey, told something differently. That hey, this is what happens whenever in reality, this is what I've heard over. This is what
well,
I believe.
spoiler alert! If you guys have not seen it, we're going to be diving all over into the movie. But the one who is dressed more darker, Sister Barnes, she is also the one who, come to find out in the movie, has birth control.
That's where, yes, 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 yes. That's where at the beginning of the movie, where when they finally meet and start, conversing with Hugh Grant's character, Mr. Reed. It's supposed to. Because when I was sitting there watching it, I'm sitting there when I heard his name. It's like, oh, Mystery. I don't know if that's his true name or not, but you know, it seems to be a little play on the word mystery. I'm like, okay, I don't know if that was intentional, but that I picked that up. I don't know if it was intentional or not.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's also like,
But there is a big cat and mouse game going on in this movie where each time one of them speaks, either girl speaks to Hugh Grant, Mr. Reed character, that each one is testing each other. Like they're whenever one of them says something to him, the other one has to sit there and play it a certain way as well, and he's playing a certain way against both of them. So it's basically one giant test to see what the ultimate one, because they sit there and throughout the entire movie they sit there and talk about different faiths that make up different religions and everything. And they cover quite a basis in this movie. They even sit there and talk about, if we're in a simulation and everything, it would make you think, we're not in a simulation. There is no God. We're just in a fucking computer. And you're like, holy shit, they're just going all over the place for this movie. But they are showing you where different religions over different points in time are being pulled and called, and different interpretations of that story are being interpreted and then being placed in a new book or volume. If you know what I'm you know what I'm saying, you get, because he
Yeah.
talked about three different religions, making the basis of the world religion in our world. You have the Jewish religion, the Christian version, and then the Islamic version, and then everything after that is just kind of a branch on what they wanted to take and call and just make their own. And that's where, since he's dealing with the Mormons, that's where he tries to play them off, their own background, their own religion. Because when he asked about polygamy, what do you guys think about that? And both of the girls had to defend the church on how polygamy was back in the, how it did start the basis of Mormonism.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
I'm not a Mormon or anything, but I'm not sure how true that shit is. So I'm not going to sit there and question that. But I'm just going to assume while watching the movie, if we're going to sit there and play that game, we're just going to sit there and know what the characters are saying is true. We're just going off that basis. You're just going to accept that. Okay, that's what it is in Mormonism. So okay.
Yeah, especially going off like how he was like the different wives, and I think they defended it really good though. What do you
But
think?
they also foreshadowed it as well, because he's talking about polygamy, having many different wives, and as you start to see in the end of near the end of the movie and everything, where there's we'll talk about it later. I guess we'll get there.
You talking
But
about the prophet?
that when we yeah, the prophet, we haven't even got to whenever it's a very, it takes place in
One night.
one night, four locations, and it's like they spend about 15 to 20 minutes in each location, some of it a little bit longer. So you get it's a set down, a battle of wills in this area of the house. And the further and deeper they go into the house, as those levels escalate, those conversations get more tenser and much more in your face, much more heated, much more kind of like who's going to bend in this area. And both girls are playing a character, because
And
at this point in time, you realize that they are both, as an audience member, I sat there and realized it. I don't know if you did, but that they were playing a fucking role. Both of them were.
yeah,
That, I knew that Paxton was just a fucking, she was just playing the naive, shy little girl that just wanted to fucking, like, yeah, just please let this get over. She was just playing into the situation, but she was being very smart about the situation too. She wasn't just being stupid. She
yeah.
was, she was playing stupid, but she later on revealed at the end of the movie she knew what the fuck was going on the entire time. That was just her fucking like survival instincts at that time kicking
Yep.
in, to where you knew that. And even the barn, she sat there and knew that right then and there, because you sat there and seen as soon as he left that first time out of the house, because they come into the house and they tell him that, we can't come in unless your wife is in the room, or if there's a female in the room, we can come in. And he's like, oh, okay, just come on in. I'll go get her from the kitchen. And they come in and they talk a little bit, and he sets them down, and then he just goes off and, comes back with something to drink. And he's like, oh, my wife's finishing up, the blueberry blow. So she'll be in here in a little bit. And he just plays it off and just plays it off for a little bit. And that's the whole running thing for, the first mid half of the movie. I say the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie is them, wondering when the wife is going to show up on the scene. And he just sits there and just kind of, not, he kind of like starts to question Mormonism. And that's, what makes them tick as a Mormon, basically. What do they find in the teachings of the Mormon religion? What do they find in that? And each of them's interpretation on what they see, because you have a girl that was born into the faith, into the Mormon faith. Her parents, were full-time Mormons. She was born into the as a full-time Mormon. And Barnes, she was a,
Almost like a born again.
yeah, she was a convert. Her family, integrated into the church, and but that's both sides of the coin, though. If you sit there and look at it, here's a girl that's seen the faith through one lens, and here's a girl that's seen faith through for most of her life through the Mormon lens, and it plays off life experience over. In my opinion, that was just me watching it and me putting my self in the placement of those two characters, the girls. mind frame, because there is a way. I don't know how this movie does it, but it takes three characters and it puts you in their mind frame to where for that first half of the movie. Well, I'm not saying that not that either, but for that first half of the movie until that pivotal turn happens to where they get locked in the basement. But when we get to that point, they have played such a game to where it was like when they have to walk down the hall and
Oh
following
yeah,
down
yeah.
the hall, there's a statue at the end of the hall, and they're sitting there like, "What the hell is that?" They are very. That's to me right there. The very first time he leaves the room, and they sit there and they start searching for a way out. That lets me know right then and there that even though they were playing, the "Hi, I'm a Mormon," and that first interaction with him, they were playing the "Hi, I'm a Mormon. Would you like to hear about Mormonism and everything like I don't know if it's called Mormonism, but Mormon, the Church of Mormon, shit like that. Do you want to learn about that? And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he just played the part to get him in the house, gets him in the house, and just sits there and talks to him to the point where he just, I don't know what he does, man. It felt so.
This movie is so detail oriented. Even when he pulls up his little PowerPoint presentation and talks to you about all the different religions.
See, that's what I'm saying. That he sits there and that he tries to break the girls down on the religion and everything. That's what he's trying to do. Sit there and see which one truly believes it. He has two examples in front of him. Like I said,
Yep.
he has the girl that's been raised by a Mormon family. That's all she knows is what she's been taught as a Mormon. And then here's a girl that converted in as she got older, and she experienced a different life than this other girl did. And
Yeah.
this is both of their interpretations, and you do get that sense. And in my opinion, I did. I got the sense of understanding that this was the Barnes experience throughout life, and I just placeholdered that in my brain. The girl seems a little scarred, hence why she has the scar on her arm. And when they get down to the basement, shit gets fucking crazy right there because the camera work and everything and the way everything is edited and shot shows you that whenever her scar is mentioned in that moment, that Hugh Grant takes notice of
Yep.
that scar. So there's like the camera work is also doing storytelling, which I found interesting as well because I sat there and looked at it and I saw a lot of this movement because they're in a house in one room for the first what is it, 15 minutes or so?
Yeah,
Well,
probably 20 minutes. And then like at the 45-minute mark, 50 minutes is when he starts,
he
he
finds
writes he writes belief on one door, disbelief on another door.
so they're like
Um,
going through these layers and different levels, and this dude's like, I don't know what it seems like a plot, and it's his way of examining what their true belief system is, and it was a weird. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm looking too much into it, but so
no, I think you're doing great. I don't think with movies like this, with what A24 does, they take they take horror to me to a new, whole nother level. And like we've all seen like cheesy horror, gory stuff. Like we,
and
we,
here's
we,
the
we
thing on that. I didn't even see this as horror really. There's nothing gory about this. There's no real gore in this movie.
it's not gory, but I still think it's a horror element. It's still a horror movie to me.
I was sitting there just kind of like, oh, it's okay. I consider it a religious horror, so that
I mean, it's more like kind of like a psychological thriller. But to me, at the end of the day, like this is still.
with a lot of touches of horror elements.
Oh yeah, it's still to me like yeah, I would grade it still as a horror movie. Um, because honestly, again, to me, I kind of felt like some Saw vibes from it.
It had a little bit of those overtones into it, where I want to play a game. It had that I want to play a game with you kind of
And
feeling to it,
he the way he
and
brings
they
up the
did
way he
them.
the way he brings up the board games, the three songs, just he's like, hey, same interpretation, but just it's fed to us differently throughout time because he talks about the air that I breathe by the Hollies, Creep by Radiohead, and then Get Free by Lana Del Rey, and it's like the same kind of secret hidden message, but told differently to us throughout the age of time. So the way he puts
That was his point, though. Even his PowerPoint presentation was like, look here, you have the Egyptians, and they did this, this, and this in their religion. Okay, but what did Christianity do? They took this, this, and this from that religion, and they put it over here. And that's what. It's a weird thing is that my interpretation of the movie was that one religion took what they had liked about everything else throughout time, because these different religions Homeboy talks about is over time. And that's the one thing how this movie's like on the religion talk, it gets I thought it got pretty fucking deep, because
it gets real deep.
Because I sit there, I'm not going to really get into my religious beliefs on here, but
Right.
It's not very complex. I can give you that. It's not very complex, but it plays off of different belief systems over time, because it brings up the ancient Egyptians, and it's like, hey, this is what they thought and they believed. It even talks about the Sumerian. He goes into different backgrounds of religions over arching of time,
Yep.
leading up to certain points that where we got to our certain indoctrination of Christianity, Islam, and it's where it's evolution to where it's at now. And this is where we took those different stories from this book over here, and we replaced it, put it in this book over here, and we created a whole new book and called it something else. That's the levels that I picked it up on. And then when they get later on, before they have to, the conversation escalates into we live in a simulation, and right now, real big in the science community is that yes, there's a pretty damn good chance we are in a computer simulation somehow, some way. It's a very high probability that we as a human civilization somewhere, some way, and somehow got blipped into a fucking computer world. Like the Matrix is fucking real. It's the system fighting back, bro. But no, that's the level that they get into religion on here, because he talks even about and that's what I sit there and think, where they talked about at the beginning of religion, the middle of religions, where we kind of right now are now, and what could be the future of religion.
And his whole thing, Hugh Grant, throughout this movie, after watching this, man, and then Oscar nominations came out a few days ago as well. We'll talk Oscar nominations again on the next episode when we talk Ghost of Girlfriend's Past this week or next week. But man, I think Hugh Grant kind of nailed this performance, and Hugh Grant throughout his career has kind of been typecast. Let's point it that way. He's been typecasted as the single British accent, blue-eyed love interest of every single girl in America.
Oh yeah, now this is like
he's stepping out of his comfort zone.
This is him as an older man. This is my I interpret. This is.
I think he could have pulled something off like this like 20, 30 years ago.
Very possible.
And I'm like,
but the wear and tear on his face as he's aged and everything, you don't even hear a British accent on him at all. So
it's still there.
I didn't really hear it. I thought he played a character the entire time. I thought it seriously. Everything. Anytime I seen him ask those girls a question, I sat there and seen him just putting on a play. I never seen him as like I thought he was sitting there playing with his fucking prey. Like he was a cat and they were the mouse.
Oh yeah.
But
he was playing with his food the whole time.
Exactly, but he wanted to.
It ended up biting him in the ass, though.
Very much so. But
so
we get into the room where he writes the belief and disbelief on the door. And like I said, they've went through now like 2 levels where they've encountered the statue now. After he's now leading them deeper into the house, down a long corridor, and there's a statue at the end, and they think it looks very fucking unsettling, and they don't want to continue on the path. But they also lie to him and tell him that they got a phone call. Hold up, we got to leave.
Which
and that gets him in trouble.
Yeah, he already
Exactly.
knows.
But that gets him in trouble as well because once they get in the next room, he basically starts to fucking like, so why'd you guys have to lie and tell me that, you got a phone call when my house has metal in it? I told you that shit when you guys first got here that your phones wouldn't work, but you told me you got a phone call. What the fuck? And he just like calls them out on their bullshit. It's like, oh, okay, okay. And that shows that he is very dangerous at that point in time because now he's like led the girls deeper in the fucking house.
I almost bet this movie is so deep. Like if you went through and probably like maybe asked the directors or if Hugh Grant did like extra digging into his character, I almost would have even have bet that when he signed up to learn more about the church, he only did it because he knew those two worked for the church.
But later on, I always thought that the girls that we find in the basement, I always thought those were other religious people that have come
Oh
to
yeah,
his
from
house.
probably from different types of churches.
Oh yeah, where they've sent women, and this is just the new iteration of women that he's pulled to their house. They just happen to the way the movie over takes place. You could replace any religion in this movie, and you'd probably get the same spiel from him, if not close to it. On how he plays with them over the religion. It's just a guy poking at holes in a certain religion and
Did
seeing
you get
how the two different belief structures. He looks because in Hugh Grant's eyes, Mr. Reed, he does read both girls at that. He reads them very fucking closely, and that's we see it as his. I don't know. I've seen it as he was reading both girls at the same time while they were reading him, and they were just playing off of each other to see what would keep them safe, and he was just doing it because to see how far he could fucking push them.
did you kind of notice like some of the tools and some of the weapons that they found or used like were really close to some of the like utensils to torture Jesus Christ?
A spear.
There was a spear, there was the dagger, there was the 2x4 that had nails at the end of it. I wrote that down in my notes about when I was watching it earlier, and I'm like, man, that's kind of
Got a crown of thorns in his head.
yeah. And I think those there's no way those were just like not written in there. That's how detailed this movie is.
I don't know, man. Coincidence is coincidence. Who knows?
But
We could just be reading too much into it. It just could be. I don't know. But that's
no,
what I interpret a lot of his
that's
shit.
that's A24 honestly for you. That like every movie that they put out there, the attention to detail is just so is so it's just bizarre how much attention to detail all these
We've
movies
only
have.
gotten to the fucking second part of the house, and he starts to play with them even more.
Well, we don't
And
have to go. We don't have to go scene by scene. We could even.
well, I
I
know,
mean,
but that's the point, because once we get in the basement, it's all over, man. It gets fucking intense and quick. But before he gets into that basement, he
let's talk
fucking
about the
plays with them
prophet.
hard.
Let's talk about the prophet for a little bit because that's a scene that I just was like horrified by.
I thought it was pretty decent. That's what I'm saying. It was believable. I'm not gonna say
Yeah,
it was very like okay,
when
but
he has
it's another setup of belief where he plays the girls off to what do they believe. Did this woman die and then come back and give them a prophet of what it felt like to die? And the girl that's for the prophet supposedly runs up on him and sits there and says, hey, this is what it looks like. There's a conductor, something like that, which means like something like angel or some shit. And there's, but it's all not real. And Paxton sits there and remembers that shit. She remembers the prophet telling him that it's not real. And that's where it later on ties into the talk where they're out there talking about a simulation, that it's just a simulation, and that's what religion is now. And it's like, that's the way I interpret that, is like, holy shit, they brought it back to whenever they were talking about whenever it's, because he talks to him. There's a lot of talking in this movie.
which isn't a bad thing.
And no, that's what I'm saying. That each conversation they have is a different setup for the next device in the movie. That's what I liked about this movie, was that each time they went to a different part of the house, and each time they got introduced to a new thing, it was a new set of questions that they were being asked and it was their interpretation and their way of interpreting that event to him is the reason why they got to proceed and go on the way they did. Because it revealed by the end, he knew exactly what the fuck was going on, and that's what's creepy as fuck about this. Is
Yeah.
that dude knew exactly what the fuck the turnout was going to be, and he decided early on in the movie. If you pay attention, he decides early on, whenever they're still back at the living room, who's going to live and who's going to die. Back then,
Yeah.
because he realizes he has someone that's been raised in the Mormon, and this is my interpretation of it, is that here's someone who I can play, is pliable and Paxton. I can play this girl. I can have my fun with this girl. I can, play off my sick fantasies with this girl over here, because
He was already thinking about who was gonna, if he captured her, how she was gonna live with him.
and how to play the game, how she was going to play his game.
Yeah.
And he thought that Paxton was the best suitor for that, and that's why he zeroed out fucking Barnes, because when they started talking about the living room, when they talked about if they had their God moment, where Mr. Reed asked them, like I said, there's multiple layers of this conversation that they have early on too, is where he asked her, has she had her oh God moment, or ever experienced her dad, being there after he had passed away, and she sat there and said no, that I haven't felt anything like that. And he just sat there and was like, all right, she's going to be the one that's a non-believer on a lot of things that I want to present here.
Yeah.
And he had his, and how he eliminates her once they get into the basement after seeing the prophet. He just comes down there, and that's the big shock and the twist of the movie right there, is the whole, they're setting up the first big battle. You're like, hell yeah, the two girls are going to finally kick his ass, or because things have escalated, and about then, homeboy just fucking slices the girl's throat and fucking ends her right there. She's just fucking dead.
Yeah. I didn't.
There's no like long drawn out fucking death scene. It's just slices her fucking throat. She's out there bleeding out, dead. All fucking ready.
That's the A24 little dig for you. You're expecting one thing, and then boom, dead. There's no explanation. You don't even get to say goodbye to the character, just dead. And if there's anything that you've noticed from any other movie in the past, like Hereditary, fucking Midsummer, all these A24 horror movies, they don't give a rat's mess about your feelings. Boom, your character is just gone. And it's like,
I can respect that as long as it plays by its own rules.
and I think this movie does.
And it does, because he sits there and talks about with the prophet. He's like, the girl willingly. You later find out that yes, it was all his fucking magic trick, because that's what Barnes sits there and says before she's murdered. Right. Is that it's just a fucking magic trick. What you did with the prophet was just a bullshit illusion. And because Paxton sees that the person had moved when they came back from the door, because they were looking out. Okay, we're missing a lot of points in this movie, but there's so much happens in the runtime. I know it's a very fucking tight, complex mess, but a good mess to the entire fucking movie, where it's just one escalated situation after the other, where the girls have to look under the door. They're thinking they're going to be able to scream for help after they get into the basement, but there's no fucking way. And this is where we get our second appearance of like Topher Grace, and he comes to the door asking, because their Mormon registry, because who they go through and report back to at the end of the day are just making sure, because the girls haven't checked in yet, and it's basically their boss, coming to check in and see if they've reported by that house that day. And that's where we get a couple other scenes with Topher Grace asking other people around the city if they've seen the girls that day, and that's what kind of puts him on to looking at this guy on the list. And Hugh Grant plays that off very well in his scene to sit there and act like that. Oh, I'm Mr. Innocent. I haven't seen shit, homeboy. You know what I mean? It's like,
but when he comes back, you're almost like, wait a minute, he's going to ask about the bites. But then it gets revealed a little bit later on that he hid the bites.
And it's even revealed that way because Paxton lets him know she recognizes that. Yeah. That's how deep this shit is. The homegirl's playing this weak little innocent girl through most of the movie and just playing into him, just trying to be nice and shit, while also having a.
Her attention to detail is more than anybody else in the movie. I think even more than Mr. Reed.
That's what his downfall was, but it also leads into the whole prophet thing, and this is why I understood it, was that during the whole prophecy, it shows the woman eating the blueberry pie with the fucking poison in it and everything, dying on the table. They run back up the stairs because of the disturbance upstairs, and they try to scream out the door because that's Topher Grace's scene. And they get down there in the basement, and Paxton realizes that the dead body has moved.
Yeah.
And so that lets her know something wasn't right. And Homegirl figures out that there was a swap. It was indeed a magic trick. There is a door hidden down here somewhere. Because as of right now, we've only been presented with 2 doors. The belief and disbelief door. And no matter what door we chose, would lead us into this fucking basement. So they were doomed to go into this basement no matter what. And
then ultimately they were also doomed to go down the same third installment, which there's the basement and then there's the room underneath the basement.
Oh yeah, that's when Barnes out of nowhere gets fucking whacked. She's done out of the movie.
But the end all be all of what Hugh Grant, Mr. Reed's one true religion was, at the end when she's standing there and he's like, do you know what the one true religion is?
And he wanted to show her, do you know what it is? Control, no matter what religion has or will ever will be, it's control of the population. And and Hugh Grant was like, that's the ultimate religion, is control. And then that's when she gets down in the basement, basically, and sees a few women chained up and tied up.
You know what I also was thinking? I was like, maybe because he was talking about the different wives, and it also led me to believe like maybe that's one thing that he truly believes in too, and he's capturing these different women to have different relationships with them underneath. But it ended up not being. It ended up, I don't know. It might have been that sick and grotesque where maybe he was having sexual relations with these women that he's hiding underground.
I never experienced a sexual. I just sat there and thought of him just hiding these women that, no matter what their religious belief was, this is how they ended up and how he played the game. Like I said, the religion, it could have been Christians showing up at the door. It could have been Muslims showing up at the door. It could have been any religion you wanted a placeholder for this. And it involved. And you could have brought up, kind of the same details as long as you pick and choose, what that religion sat there and believes about. But it's pretty universal when it comes to terms on modern religion, no matter what you substitute for. It could be.
If you want your house to smell like a blueberry pie, you can go to shopA24.com, and they have a Heretic blueberry pie candle for $40.
Holy shit.
Make your house question everything with the Heretic blueberry candle, scented with flaky, buttery crust, and then in the middle is a zingy blueberry filling. Interesting.
That makes me want to fucking just go buy one right now. Hey, man, I got to give them credit, though. How did they sell this movie?
Right?
Candles. Fuck it, right? That's a big plot twist.
So.
Who would have thought a fucking $40 candle could almost get a motherfucker killed?
Yeah. But, man, this movie is, like we were talking about earlier, man, this movie is so detailed. It's insane.
But let's sit there and we can start talking about some of the ending right now, where they get to their final confrontation and shit. That was pretty deep. That was pretty, like I said, there was a whole structure of the Hugh Grant tried to present these girls with a miracle, and somehow he fucked up. This is where Homeboy had to just go with the plan. It was still him playing his plan out a little bit, but he had to play it differently because this girl, for some fucking reason, played the game a little bit differently than the other ones had. And he had to improvise. So things were a little bit different for him in this game. And that's why we're being told this story and being shown it this way is because here's the one girl that was able to play the game with him and has so far been able to kind of outsmart him.
Yeah.
And it's really complex how they get to that point where, like we said, they get down in the basement. There's just a bunch of women chained up downstairs in the basement. These are, in your mind, these are just women that he's abducted, no matter what they be, and he's abducted these women and kept them caged up and kind of just fucking like warped them to where they're just basically his followers. It feels like they're his followers in a weird way because they just do anything that he bids because he has placated and played their fucking religion against them. Because when he said, and that tells you, and that's what a layer of character development to me feels like, is whenever he later explained, because we do get like kind of like a here's how I played you, here's how I played you kind of ending while they're fucking gutting each other. Because it starts flashing back and showing you throughout the movie when they were playing each other a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you get like the second life of Paxton.
Oh yeah, she gets fucking one up, but she gets stabbed in the gut.
Yeah, and
But
then
she's what?
Barnes,
she like stabs him in the fucking throat or some shit?
Yeah, but Barnes comes back too, though.
That's what I'm saying. She was supposedly fucking dead throughout the entire last half of the movie. About out of nowhere, she's like confirmed dead in a weird way. Homegirl's fucking done.
But she's the one that takes the 2x4 spikes and kind of just wails him over the face with it.
And that causes the girl to be able to get up and get out and fucking run.
Yeah. So, it's. You think it's to believe that Mr. Reed and Barnes died together down there, right?
I've read around. I ain't gonna believe. Well, yeah, I've sit there and like read around online, see what people's different opinion about the movie's ending is, and it kind of plays in two different ways. One, she made it out. Two, she didn't.
But Paxton did make it out.
What do you think?
I think probably in a real world, Paxton obviously gets out because that's one of the last scenes you see is her outside the house.
But she had the butterfly on her hand, and then it's suddenly gone. What's that symbolize?
That symbolizes she's the one who wanted to be a butterfly in her next life, right?
Yep. Is she seeing herself slipping away?
If I'm an A24 guy like I am, I think that everybody died.
So when did she die, though? Inside the fucking cellar? I think she was gutted a few times, and Homeboy just fucking completely cries.
I think she probably bleeds out, and I think she dies on the outside of the house for sure. The weather also looked a lot warmer too when she was outside the house?
Well, it was raining whenever they showed up, and as they got thicker and thicker into the house,
it got snowy and cold. Yeah.
Yeah, the temperature outside changed around them too. I noticed that as well.
So,
and then as she gets out, she crawls out that little fucking window.
Yeah.
The only flaw, I guess, the Death Star plan's only flaw in the fucking the Death Star. And she's able to crawl out the fucking access port.
But I mean, as soon as they get in the house from the beginning, she sees that window and the butterfly on the window.
That's set up earlier in the movie.
Yeah, that's the first thing she looks at whenever they first get into the house. Is she notices the butterfly on the window? So
I thought it was a moth.
No, I think it was a butterfly. But
we'll have to look into that. We'll have to recheck that out on a second viewing.
But
I could have swore it was a moth, and never mind.
But if I'm looking into it like some of these A24 movies follow up, I think they all probably die. If Paxton does get out, I think Reed and Barnes didn't make it. So.
But I also interpret it as, where does it go from here after she gets out? Does she fully get out? Does she go and get help? Does she tell people what the fuck happened, where they're at, blah blah blah?
She still can't get their bikes. And if she did make it out, it was still a 4-mile walk. Exactly. They were talking about it earlier about it being a 4-mile walk, 2-mile bike ride, something like that.
She's been fucking gutted.
Yeah.
And she's been fucking. It's like cold outside, so she doesn't have her jacket now. She's basically out there and just her fucking normal Mormon shit, and she's got to just basically hook it back with the big ass injury to the gut, and that's when she sits there and falls to her knees and sees that butterfly, and it makes her and then it just disappears. It's like
And the movie's over.
and it just cuts back to her looking like she's getting ready to get back up and start walking towards the future. And what's the future holding? It's left for you to interpret what the fuck happens after the credits roll here.
Yeah.
But it's like, does she go and get the cops? Does any of that happen? Does she expose where homeboy is at and release the women down in the basement? Or do we get a sequel later on where homeboy fucking like it's like Uber or he's like Uber Jason, and he fucking like just pops up in the woods in front of her, like ah ha 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 ha, and back in for round 2.
No sequel. Which is weird. Out of all the A24 movies, the only movies to have ever gotten sequels was the whole X, Pearl, and Maxine trilogy. So, but let's talk favorite scene.
Before we head on real quick, okay, you said this movie cost $10 million to make.
Yes.
How much did it make at box office?
I said that earlier. I think it reached a little over 54 million.
Oh yeah, that's definitely could be a sequel. That's a lot of money, especially when it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it haven't even hit digital, has it?
It's you can rent and pay for it to stream on digital, but it's not on it's not a streaming service yet.
Yeah, this one didn't have a digital copy that came with it like most Blu-rays do. Yeah, like you said, this was a pretty scam release for an expensive price.
The A24 exclusives don't come with digital copies. So, and I think that's the route they're going now. So I've noticed that they're going to go A24 exclusive packaging, and if you want it on digital, it's going to be on HBO Max.
Okay.
So they're very smart with the scheme that they're doing lately. So, you got a favorite scene?
I had a lot of fun with a lot of this movie. Like I said, there was the different settings. How, like I said, it felt like different layers of this dude's fucking horror chamber.
It was like an onion.
It was. There was a lot of layers.
Yeah.
So it's what, an hour and 50 minutes, hour and 52 minutes, or some shit like that.
Yeah.
So it's just four people mainly. You see 4 people throughout the movie basically. Yep. It's Topher Grace being, the side character who has the least amount of scenes in the movie. He has like 2 or 3 scenes, and they're pretty fucking like 45 seconds, 50 seconds, and then we're back at the fucking house again.
Topher Grace, Chloe East, Sophie Thatcher, and Hugh Grant. So, I'd probably have to say I liked Barnes' death. I thought that was out of nowhere, super, super detailed. The look he gives her when she's noticing and she falls down is just terrifying. And then probably the ending reveal with Paxton.
But that scene right there where he cuts her down, though, it makes the other girl sit there and have to change up her fucking game.
Oh, yeah.
Because shit just got real.
And they didn't realize that he can hear him through that almost like that music player that he has connected to the bottom. That's how he heard their little. Hey, say the magic word and I'll stab him. That's why when they said the magic word, nope, he stabbed her.
Oh, he did more than stab her ass. He fucking took that box cutter and slit her fucking throat at the jugular.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. But
she just collapses right there. So yeah, that was a good scene. I'll give you that favorite scene. Yeah, her death was pretty out of nowhere. And that was where the movie takes its twist, where the game takes a different turn. Where the stakes have to be turned up, and it's like, all right, motherfuckers, now it's become one-on-one.
Well, through the whole movie, though, if we're talking favorite scenes, everything is just kind of let's say PG-13, okay? And then when he does that, you're like, okay, you're like, this is serious. Shit just hit the fan.
He just crossed the line and did it so fucking quickly and didn't change a fucking thing about his demeanor. He just went straight for the kill and looked at the other girl and was like, "Hi, what do you want to do now?" It's like,
Do,
okay, he's a different type of crazy. So I get that. I got it.
do,
It wasn't played stupidly.
do you have another favorite scene or just those?
Like I said, I enjoyed this movie. I had fun with it. I've seen it twice now, over the course of a couple weeks. So I give I enjoyed it.
Star rating? You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. It was pretty deep. I'll give it 4.
That is pretty good. That's a pretty good rating. I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I really, really liked it. It was gross and grotesque where it needed to be. The performances were outstanding. The score, the cinematography, beautifully shot. Hugh Grant just blows it out of the water with his character as Mr. Reed, and the horror elements as it's not a Terrifier 3 or it's not your average Omen or something like that. This movie just frightens you and creeps you out on so many different levels. Um, it's there, man, and this is a very good detail oriented horror movie. Um, I almost gave it a 5, but I'm giving it a 4.5. So
So good review, right on. I agree with the.
if I if,
I
if
just
I
had a little nitpicky problems, but nothing. And that's why I took a point off. But other than that, it's for as far as like psychological thrillers and horror and
and maybe
shit
this
like
maybe
that, shit
maybe
like
this will
that.
change. Maybe this will
It,
change throughout time for me. But I had to pause it so many times today. The reason I give it a 4.5 out of 5 is just because I did have some small tidbits with pacing. But again, if I watched it again all the way through with no interruption, this could end up being a 5 for me. But right now, I'm going to give it a 4.5.
There's a lot of deep shit in this movie, so I enjoyed that
So,
a lot. And it discussed religion. I sat there, and that's another thing where it touched on religion the entire fucking time, but doesn't sit there and try to completely debase anything. It just fucking like, here's my interpretation of everything,
yeah.
and how are you going to play it? How is that a play on your expectations, and what's your belief system? So if you have any inkling or belief on religion, and you sit there and, like I said, it's very universal in my head, is that you could sit there and use any religion and place your own beliefs and morals on the characters being played out here, the three of them. This can translate to other religion. If they wanted to remake it for the a different market, just switch
Oh,
it
yeah.
out. It'd be a fucking like it could play the same.
But,
This,
man,
and that's the
yeah,
good thing.
that is a good thing.
It's a universal story and a weird, new complex way of thinking about it. I guess.
Hard to believe, though, man. January is over. We have completed all of our January subject matters. Heretic is the way we go out of January. But next week, we will be reviewing and having another all right conversation. It's February. Love is in the air. It's one of those kind of months. So why not talk about ghosts of girlfriends past? Matthew McConaughey, he's our theme for the year. So let's touch on another Matthew McConaughey movie. Next week, uh, you can watch us live next Sunday, February the 2nd, but you can listen to it live or wherever you listen to the podcast at next Monday on February the 3rd. So watch us again next Sunday, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, February the 2nd, right here on Emus Wall Productions YouTube channel or Facebook Live.
That's one I haven't seen yet, so I'm gonna have to give my opinion of it. It's what year to come out? Mid 2005, 6.
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, it's one of those middle of the map fucking rock before he hit it out of the park with all those fucking movies back to back.
And then don't forget February the 20th over on Friday the 14th podcast, we will be talking about our top 5 2024 horror movies over on Friday the 14th podcast.
So that could be definitely fun, couldn't it?
It'll be fun.
Because I've sit there and seen you review some good ones this year.
February the 10th, we'll be talking about Wicked, one of the most popular movies of the year. and one of the most highly discussed Oscar-nominated films of the year. And then we're gonna
watch the sing along together and post video as we did. So.
And then we're gonna put 2024 to rest. We're gonna put the final nail in the coffin. February 17th, Monday night, we will talk our top 5+5 movies of 2024. It is our yearly award show, and that'll be here in a few
what
weeks.
sucked and what didn't suck. So just fucking take our opinion as facts and let's
go.
continue on with it.
Take it.
That's the year, the 2024, where you just take our fucking word for it and watch what we tell you to.
Watch what we tell you to. Other than that, man, I think it was a fun conversation. We dove pretty deep into Heretic. Do you have any other final comments before we head on to February?
No. I'm ready to go grab something to eat. See what the rest of the night takes me, man. How about yourself?
It. Don't forget, next week, Ghost of Girlfriends Past.
Like I said, not what I've seen.
We open up February with Matthew McConaughey. So go check it out, and we'll see you guys on another new episode. Love y'all. Take care. Next week, new episode, Cine-Men Movie Podcast.